cannot have AI solutions that are biased to ethnicity, to age, to gender, and this is just completely unacceptable. Hello, let's see, my mic's on, that's perfect. I like to think about AI as a reflection of humanity. We teach a system to learn and to imitate, and in some cases even predict an outcome that we would usually take, like a decision or even a process. So I think it's important when we start imitating processes that we can actually think about what kind of image is it that we want to reflect. My name is Linda Virkkala, as Maddie said. I identify as a woman, and I am working at Accenture with bridging the gap between data and the business units. Today, I will talk about responsible AI, which is a passion of mine. I will talk about why it's important. I will also talk about why we need and how we need to talk about it, and then give you some practical examples on how to do this. But first of all, raise a hands of who are working with AI here today. Some kind of machine learning, AI, RPA. Quite a small group, but that's perfectly fine. I hope that you will come out with some inspiration anyways. So to show you a little bit of what I'm thinking of when we're talking AI, here we see a video footage of a person being tracked. So we saw it in the first video and then in the first shoot, and here is the same person being tracked of where they're walking. Here we can see a person being tracked in a mall. A count of people walking into, I think this is an airport. A count of number of people queuing so that we can see there's coming red, so maybe they need to open up more counters. A person jumping over the barriers in a subway station, something that SL might benefit from when they want to see how many people that are actually jumping over the fence, so they can calculate on that. People that are walking and starting to fight, so we can see the movement pattern in the blue line, and that it's classifying that the people are fighting that, and it's a group of people. And the last example here is in our Singapore office, where we had facial recognition for our employees when they're walking in. So, for example, we might not need an ID badge when we're going into the office. All of these are kind of cool technologies, and there's a lot of good ways of implying them, but we also need to think about what kind of issues these raise, and how, if we don't do it responsibly, what kind of implications will it have? So I would like to summarize a little bit of what I think are the ethical issues with AI. And I know that I had to bring singularity up, because that's what everyone is talking about when it comes to AI, and it's not really what I want to focus on today, but it's anyway interesting that the humans will take over as humanity. But I also want to just say that we always think about this as the Terminator coming in and like taking over humanity, while there are also in science fiction other examples like R2-D2 that is actually helping us out in a lot of cases. So it might not actually be that bad, and we've had some discussions about it during the conference as well. The second is inclusion and diversity, and this is that we have a quite small group working with AI. It's following the societal norms, meaning it's mostly men working with this, and that this can in itself introduce an unconscious bias into the algorithms. Transparency means that we don't always know what decisions are being made, how companies are using AI, and that means that we don't really have an insight into what is being, for example, tracked by me, of me. And privacy is also important here, like what am I as an individual being tracked? So, for example, if we have facial recognition in our office, will the office start tracking when I go for coffee breaks, how long breaks I take, how many hours I am at work and use that as a leverage against me, which wouldn't be so cool. And to be able to talk about this, I think that we need to have kind of a framework, and of course as a consultant I would say that, but it's still good to put words into what we need to think about. And that is to raise our AI, like the same way that we raise humans. And we have 5 keywords that we like to discuss when we talk about this. The first is accountability. And that means that we cannot have an AI system that says, that takes a decision and we blame the AI for it. And no, it doesn't really work like that. We have to have a person or an organization or a department that takes accountability for the actions that are being an outcome from the AI solution. The second then is transparency. And this is one thing is to understand the decisions, because sometimes it can be hard for people to understand what kind of decisions that come out from an AI solution. But it also then means that if we take decisions on, if we don't understand the AI, are we willing to take the risk to put this as a product on the market? So take conscious decisions on what kind of things that we actually want to continue with. The third thing is fairness, and this is with the inclusion and diversity I was talking about. We cannot have AI solutions that are biased to ethnicity, to age, to gender, and this is just completely unacceptable. And this is what Daniel was talking about with supporting people. We should have, we're talking about it as a machine plus human collaboration, where we're kind of lifting up the human in the loop. So not just replacing them, but actually having AI as a support mechanism. And the last one is honesty. We cannot have AI that breaks laws in any way. So if you think of the self-driving car, for example, you could have it control where the police is staying, so that you know that you can speed during times when you're not controlled by the police, and then just slow down when the police is there. This doesn't really make up for a very honest solution, so we need to make sure that all laws and regulations are followed. And how do we do this in practice? I think that this is a very interesting topic to touch upon. And even if you're not working with it specifically, I think you can still all make an impact on what kind of discussions that we as companies are having. And here we also have 4 topics that I want to deep dive into a little bit. And I will go through them each and also give you a bit of examples on how it can look either when you put it to work or when you don't put it into work. So the first is team effort. And this is what I have been talking about, the red thread of having transparent systems, is that we should have AI that is understandable by the non-technical users in an organization. And what I mean here is that we can have diverse teams. Maybe it's not just tech people that need to work with this. We can also have other people that understand other things that can actually give very good insight into how we should develop these solutions. It's also to have clear responsibility, as I talked about before, having a person responsible for data investigations, which I will talk about in just a minute, model investigations, seeing that the models are not putting out biased results, and also having testing responsibilities. And it's also important that we have leadership that takes ownership of this, that commit to not having an unresponsible or unethical AI solution in place. So having chain of escalation and having a support that we know what kind of decisions that we need to take. So going back to the transparency as well, that they take conscious decisions on that we're deploying this even though we don't understand it, or no, we shouldn't do it. An example of a company that is working with this is Nissan and their autonomous vehicle research. Here's Melissa Sefkin. She is an anthropologist, and she is part of the research team with Nissan's autonomous vehicle solution. I think it makes kind of a lot of sense when you want to make a car that should fit into a human society, to have someone that is an expert on human